Hey, what do you think you are doing on my computer? The voice cut through the silence sharply like a whip. Maya Williams froze, her fingers hovering over the mechanical keyboard. The monitor's light illuminated her face, exposing the fear growing behind her eyes. She slowly turned and stood up straight as the tall man in a suit emerged from the shadows of the private dining room. Nathan Carlisle, founder and CEO of Carlisle's, was a man who did not tolerate errors or unauthorized access. His piercing gaze scanned the screen behind her. This system is private. Who gave you access? Maya began to speak. Sorry, I was just cleaning and saw the screen flash. But before she could finish, Nathan crossed the room and slapped her across the face. The sharp sound echoed like gunfire in the elegant office. Maya stumbled to the side, clutching her cheek, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. Get out, Nathan growled. I do not care what you thought you were doing. Stay far away from anything not yours. Tears welled up in Maya's eyes as she struggled to regain composure. Please, just listen for a moment. The computer was being accessed remotely. I promise I saw the override command come through, I said. His voice boomed. He did not want explanations or context. He saw a waitress at his terminal and responded purely on instinct. Protect, punish, purge. Maya held her cleaning rag close to her chest, her hands trembling. Trembling, she insisted she was not trying to commit theft, but to prevent a disaster. There was an entrance through the back door where someone was inserting malicious code, yet he ignored her. The man turned away, heading toward the console to reach the intercom. She remained rooted, catching her breath, and still stinging from the harsh slap. Maya's heart ached deeply, not simply from the physical pain, but from the complete dismissal that silenced her. She whispered, I will leave, but please just examine the code. Nathan responded with silence. The only sounds filled the room. The machine's steady hum and Maya's uneven breathing. She moved backward toward the exit, hastily wiping away tears, her pride guarding them from falling beyond her chin. Just as her hand reached for the doorknob, she sensed a change. His breath faltered and he spun to look back at the screen. Lines of code streamed upward, flawless and meticulously arranged, efficient, graceful, and unmistakable. Nathan's eyes sharpened. Disbelief etched on his face as he stepped closer to examine the structure more intently. The abbreviated variables, the complex nesting, the embedded notes, and the meticulous formatting matched perfectly the handwriting of a code he had encountered 6 months earlier. At that time, Carlisle's mainframe faced a severe threat, and an untraceable patch had miraculously saved the whole system, bearing only a mysterious signature, SB. Nathan had devoted weeks trying to uncover the anonymous coder behind that patch. The style was unique, far too precise to have been accidental. Now it appeared again right in his own office, written by a janitor. Nathan turned around slowly, his eyes now filled with astonishment. Looking intently at Maya's face, his anger had shifted into something else, hesitation and confusion. You wrote this? He asked, a sharpness in his voice fading into disbelief. Maya hesitated, still holding the doorknob, half afraid he might hit her again. I never thought anyone would notice, she said hoarsely. I saw the log skipping and overheard your engineers talking about it. I couldn't just turn away. His eyes remained locked on hers. SB, she gave a faint nod. Maya Brooke Williams. Brooke is my mother's name. I used SB when I sent the patch. Silence hung heavy and strange. You are a janitor, he said this time, the words lacking bitterness, just confusion. I was not always, she whispered. Before this, I was a developer, before everything fell apart. Nathan stood silently, time stretching between them filled with regret. Now what happened? He finally asked, voice softer. Maya hesitated, her cheeks stung, her pride burning deeper, but she swallowed hard and met his gaze. I worked at Vectrate, company name left unchanged. I found a hidden vulnerability in their billing system and reported it internally, quietly. A week later, my badge stopped working. They erased my access, blacklisted me, said I was a risk. Nathan did not interrupt. I had a son to provide for. I took any job I could find. I cleaned floors. When I saw your system flickering tonight, I did not think. I acted. I did not want credit. I just could not watch another company fail. She paused, then added even softer, I just wanted to help. Nathan glanced again at the screen displaying the code that had once saved him. She had written it, nearly destroying it before he even realized she should not be there. "You should not be here," he finally said. "I know," Maya whispered. "Please, do not fire me." "I was not trying to trespass. I was only trying to prevent the damage," she added. He did not respond immediately. His eyes lingered on her cheek, where the red mark from his hand was still fading. Gradually, his lips compressed, and he turned away from the intercom, lowering his hand. "Tomorrow at noon, my office," he said. Maya blinked, surprised. "What are you going to tell me?" "Everything," he replied softly. "No more secrets." He did not apologize, but he did not strike her again either. And somehow, that was enough to keep her rooted in place. She watched him leave, then turned back to the screen, the terminal still glowing with silent lines of coding and flame. For the first time in years, Maya allowed herself to hope that something new could begin. The waiting room outside Nathan Carlyle's office felt colder than usual. Maya sat rigidly in the corner chair, wearing her plain uniform, her hair pulled tightly back. A faint bruise still marked the spot on her cheek, where his hand had met her skin the previous night. She had dusted it lightly with powder, but the sting remained, an ache not only physical but deeper, whispering that she did not belong here. Yet she had arrived exactly at noon, just as he had instructed. No one in the corridor glanced at her. The receptionist barely acknowledged her presence, and everyone else passed by without a second look. He showed deliberate indifference, the kind reserved for those who go unnoticed, like the woman who emptied their trash and cleaned the floors. Before the meeting began, exactly at 7 minutes past 12, the door opened and Nathan Carlyle appeared, always dressed flawlessly, his expression unreadable. His gaze paused momentarily on hers, with no sign of apology or greeting. "Maya, come in," he said. She rose slowly and entered the office, as if stepping into a different world. The air held the scent of cedarwood blended with faint citrus, an aroma of authority refined to its essence. He motioned toward the leather chair opposite his desk. She sat while he remained standing, facing the vast Manhattan skyline through his floor-to-ceiling window, hands resting in his pockets. His voice was steady. "You are the one who wrote the patch," he stated calmly. "Not a question, but a fact." "Yes," she answered softly, barely audible. Nathan turned away slowly. "Why did you not speak up?" Maya gripped the hem of her uniform tightly. "Because no one would have believed me, and if they had, it would have destroyed me." His eyes tightened. "Explain." She studied him for a long moment before speaking carefully, her voice quivering yet steady. "I used to work for Vectrate Tech," she said, "a junior developer, hired as a contractor with no degree, only hunger and dedication. I worked late, creating tools no one requested because I loved it." Nathan showed no reaction, simply listening. "Then one night," she went on, "I discovered a vulnerability in their billing system. At first I assumed it was just a bug. The more I investigated, the clearer it became that someone high up was funneling tiny amounts from microtransactions into a secret offshore account. It was nothing huge, just a few cents each time. But over several months, it added up to millions." She looked up at him and explained, "I reported it quietly through the proper channels, without accusing anyone directly. I documented everything and requested an official review." Nathan sat down, his eyes locked on her. "Within a week, my access was revoked, my badge deactivated. Security escorted me out carrying a cardboard box, accompanied by an artificial HR smile. I was accused of breaching confidentiality and told I was a threat." Maya stopped, her knuckles pale from gripping the armrest. "They made an example out of me. Every job application I sent afterward was met with silence. I was marked as a risk, a liability. Positions I was more than qualified for vanished once my background checks came through. I couldn't afford rent or daycare." Nathan exhaled slowly, still silent. "I did what I had to," she added softly. "I vanished." A long pause hung between them as a seagull floated past the window. "The city outside was alive and hectic," she continued, "but in this room, in that moment, everything was still." He asked about the patch she had sent them. "I stayed late," she said, mopping the halls outside the security floor. "I overheard two engineers struggling to fix a breach that had plagued them for days. They were frustrated. From my time at Vera, I recognized the system architecture. Checking the logs from a shared terminal, I spotted the vulnerability and knew exactly how to fix it." She paused and swallowed hard. I worked intensely and completed the patch within 2 hours on a public terminal, then submitted it using a disposable email because I did not want recognition. I simply could not stand by and watch another system fail when I knew I had the ability to prevent it. Nathan Carlyle leaned back, his fingers interlaced before his mouth, studying her as if trying to redefine who she was. She held his gaze firm and calm. No one believes someone like me writes code, she explained. So I stopped trying to be noticed. But I never stopped creating. If you feel connected to Maya, please like this video to support others who are overlooked. Also, leave a comment sharing where you are watching from. Someone close by might be experiencing this story alongside you. He said nothing at first, then gently asked, "Do you have any proof?" Maya reached into her bag and took out a worn, scratched flash drive with edges chipped from years of use. She set it down on the table. "Every tool I've built, every patch, every model, time-stamped and all mine." He did not reach for it, just stared. "And how long have you been working here?" 4 months, she answered quietly. Nathan began walking toward the window again, and silence fell once more, but this time it felt different. It lingered. Finally, Nathan spoke softly. "You should not be cleaning floors." Maya laughed bitterly. "Try telling that to every HR director in the city." He turned back to her, eyes softening. "They were wrong." "No," she replied. "They were just powerful. But that is all it takes." Nathan moved across the room, grabbed the flash drive, and flipped it between his fingers. "Tomorrow you will meet with my engineering team. Quietly under a non-disclosure agreement. I want you to guide them through this." Maya blinked. "Are you serious?" "I am." "Appa. And what happens after that?" she inquired. "We will see." There was another pause before she said, "You struck me." His jaw tightened. "I know, and I should not have." His voice was low and rougher now. "I did not see you." She stared at him. "No one does." Nathan nodded slowly. "Then maybe it is time." Someone did. She stood. He did not offer a handshake, nor did she expect one, but as Maya moved toward the door, something made her posture straighter, her breath lighter. Outside, as the door shut behind her, Nathan looked at the flash drive in his hand and murmured almost to himself, "SB," before glancing up at the skyline. A flicker of doubt crossed his face for the first time in years. He had built an empire from code, but he had no clue that the finest line ever written had originated from a mop bucket. The server room on the 24th floor was little more than a converted supply closet. Bare walls, humming towers with blinking lights, a folding table, and 2 metal chairs. It had no windows, no view, and certainly no nameplate. But for Maya Williams, it meant more room than she had been given in years. When she arrived that morning, the first thing she noticed was the laptop. It was sleek, matte black, military-grade specs by the look. The device rested neatly on the table, its screen already illuminated, displaying a solitary line of text glowing against a dark backdrop. This belonged to someone remarkable. Without hesitation, Maya paused, her hand hovering just above the keyboard. There was no one else present, no security detail, no Nathan Carlyle, just the laptop and that single line, cutting through the silence like a whisper straight to her heart. She lowered herself carefully into her seat, her fingers trembling as they touched the warm, responsive touchpad. Taking a deep breath, she began to type. For the following hour, Maya remained silent, immersed in her work, moving fluidly with the rhythm of keystrokes and intricate logic. She reconstructed the backup system entirely from the ground up, created a diagnostic tool to identify backdoor infiltration attempts, and restructured the whole user permission setup into a modular format. The code flowed through her like breath, memories, a melody she had never forgotten. The world outside seemed to vanish. It had never felt quieter or more vibrant. Exactly at 10 o'clock in the morning, the door opened with a creak. Nathan entered, followed by 2 engineers, one a slender man in his 30s wearing wireframe glasses, and the other a silver-haired woman who carried herself with the grace of someone who had witnessed countless system failures but always kept them functioning. "Anyway, this is Maya Williams," Nathan said simply. Neither engineer showed a hint of surprise, and that unsettled her more than anything. "SB," said the woman, extending her hand. "We've heard the stories." Maya was taken aback, but shook it firmly. "This is Elise Cho," Nathan continued, head of internal systems and Kevin Lennies with AI. 6 months ago, Kevin acknowledged that the infrastructure patch you provided saved our third quarter launch. We still have not been able to reproduce that setup. I was not expecting a warm welcome, Maya said cautiously. You are not getting one, Elise responded bluntly. You're being given an opportunity, and that should be enough. Over the course of the following 3 hours, Maya carefully explained her reasoning step by step. They posed challenging questions. Elise challenged her on buffer sizes and recursion procedures. Kevin analyzed her threat modeling in detail. At first, Maya answered with hesitation, alert for any traps. But as time went on, her confidence grew. She understood this language deeply. It was the world that had turned away, not the code itself. By the end, Elise leaned back and crossed her arms, saying, Where the hell did they hide you? Right in plain sight, Maya replied. Later that afternoon, Nathan found Maya alone in the break room, rinsing a coffee cup with unsteady hands. They did not hate me, she said without looking back. No, he said, leaning on the counter beside her. They did not. Maya exhaled deeply. I don't know how to handle that. Nathan suggested, Try accepting it. She faced him and said, It will not last. Maybe not, he admitted, but for now, it is yours. He handed her a small white envelope containing a new access badge. Her name was no longer on a temporary sticker, but inscribed beneath the Carlisle's logo. Department, Cybersecurity Operations. Role, Contract Consultant. She stared at it quietly, thinking, I cannot afford daycare. Maya suddenly admitted, I still work the late shift at Starlight Diner 3 nights a week. We'll manage it, he replied. You do not owe me anything. I understand, he assured her. That is why it is genuine. She blinked away the sharp emotion welling in her eyes. Why are you doing this? Because I was mistaken, Nathan simply explained, and because your son deserves to witness his mother pursuing what she was meant to do. She did not respond, but gave a small, firm nod. That evening, she walked home holding Zion's hand. The autumn air was cool, leaves rustling in the trees lining their street. Zion skipped beside her, one sneaker untied, chatting excitedly about school, robots, and whether pizza could be programmed. Once inside the apartment, she prepared grilled cheese sandwiches and sliced apples. Zion begged her to build a Lego fort while the sandwiches cooked, and she laughed as he transformed the couch cushions into walls. When the doorbell rang, she almost did not answer, but opening it, Nathan stood there, holding a bright red box of STEM-themed Lego in one arm and a small brown bag in the other. I brought dinner, he said, along with peace offerings. Zion appeared behind her, eyes wide in surprise. That is the one with the rocket launcher, he exclaimed. Nathan crouched down and explained, I was told it is an essential feature. They spent the evening on the floor, assembling a wildly imaginative spaceship, coated in rainbow bricks and paper wings. Maya watched quietly, her son and the man, who had once hit her, now patiently building together. Attaching boosters to a bright yellow cockpit, Zion chuckled as he leaned into Nathan's side. You are not bad for an older man, Nathan smiled. Don't let the board overhear that, he replied. Later, when Zion had fallen asleep on the sofa, Maya handed Nathan a warm cup of tea in the kitchen. He took it gratefully, wrapping both hands around the comforting heat. I never thought this moment would come, she said softly. Neither did I, he confessed. A heavy silence settled between them, weighted and full. You still have a long journey ahead, she mentioned quietly. I am aware, he looked down. And you still have not said sorry. Nathan nodded deliberately. I am not ready to speak those words until I truly understand their meaning. Maya did not smile, but she did not leave either. Instead, she poured him another cup of tea and leaned against the counter beside him. I prefer genuine to flawless, she said. For the very first time in ages, neither of them felt alone in that room. A week passed, and Maya arrived at the office each day before dawn, long before most engineers had even powered on their laptops. She did not request breaks nor engage in small talk near the espresso machine. Wearing her navy cardigan as a kind of armor, she worked in quiet focus. Her badge now allowed her entry not into ordinary closets, but to secured terminals far within Carlisle's infrastructure division. By Thursday, even Elise had stopped glancing over her shoulder. Yet, beyond her coding tasks, Maya still felt like an intruder. She walked through halls of glass and steel as though time were borrowed, silently waiting for a moment that had yet to come. The door slammed shut, the favor expired, and someone whispered, "She is just the janitor." That moment arrived, just not in the way Maya anticipated. It was a little after 6 in the evening when she entered the data vault on sublevel 2, carrying a diagnostic drive. The lights flickered and a coldness lingered in the air from the precise cooling system. As she started her scan, a door behind her opened. Confident and crisp footsteps approached. She did not look up until a voice spoke softly. Well, well. The prodigal hacker Maya turned to see Marcus Vell, Chief Operating Officer, second in command to Nathan Carlyle, and the man whose gaze now regarded her like a blemish on his tailored suit. "I was unaware the janitorial department had clearance," he said, his voice smooth as ice. Maya straightened her posture. "I am a contract consultant, temporarily cleared, reviewed by legal." "Yes," Marcus nodded. "I read the memo. Vague, rushed, unusually quiet for something involving a woman with a whistleblower record and a reputation for causing disruption." She remained silent. Marcus closed the distance, arms crossed. "Do you know what people like you represent to a company like this, Miss Williams?" Maya met his eyes without blinking, invisible to him, yet he smiled. "Number one, radioactive." She did not reply, but his words hung heavily between them. "No matter how brilliant your code is," Marcus continued, "this company's on course for a government contract worth 8 figures. One bad headline, one thread of your past surfacing, and that contract disappears overnight." "I did not ask to be here," she said calmly. "Then perhaps you should leave before they escort you out again," he snapped sharply. Maya flinched as the memory of her last humiliating departure replayed in her mind. The empty cardboard box in her hands, the silent steps on the stairs, the long elevator descent. Marcus leaned in close enough for her to catch the scent of his sharp cologne beneath his words. "Do you honestly think Carlyle will stand by you? He doesn't protect anyone, just his own reputation. You're a temporary phase, a simple fix. By the fourth quarter, you'll be gone." Without adding another word, he turned away. Maya remained frozen, her hands trembling, but no tears or screams escaped her. Later that night, she found herself alone in the deserted cafeteria, sitting opposite Nathan with 2 steaming mugs of black coffee between them. He noticed the tension in her shoulders before she even spoke. "Why did you pull me in, Nathan?" she asked quietly. He met her gaze and said, "Because you're talented. Talent matters even if some higher-ups think I'm a liability." He fell silent, then added, "Marcus stopped by today." Nathan's brow furrowed at the mention. "He believes you'll abandon me the moment things get complicated." Nathan leaned back and asked, "Do you believe that? I've been dropped for far less than this." He sighed deeply. Marcus isn't entirely wrong. The board is nervous, the whole business is under close watch, and your past only makes it harder. Maya rose to her feet, challenging, "Then say it. Say I'm too risky. Say you regret bringing me here." Nathan responded immediately, "I don't regret it, but I am trying to safeguard this company and you." She paused, then said, "Let me protect it too. Let me finish what I started." Nathan looked up, really looked at her. She nodded. "More than that. I have a plan, a solution." He leaned forward encouragingly. "Tell me what's next." One morning, Maya stood in front of a whiteboard inside a secure, glass-walled meeting room. 5 engineers were seated, observing her, jotting down notes and sipping coffee. At the far end, Nathan watched silently. Maya's voice was calm and assured as her hands confidently sketched diagrams for a new AI security module. This behavior-driven protocol would not only detect intrusions, but also learn from them and predict future threats. Elise spoke slowly. "Is what you are suggesting a nearly autonomous threat intelligence system?" "It's already half done," Maya replied. "The rest just requires time and computing power." Nathan glanced around the room and asked about the timeline. 3 weeks, Maya answered. "Maybe less if you reduce the bureaucracy." Kevin raised his eyebrows, saying that is extraordinary. Maya smiled subtly so as discovering a janitor writing code at midnight once everyone else has left the building. Later, Nathan pulled her aside. "That presentation was not a request for permission," she said. He offered a slight grin. "Good, because I already forwarded your designs to the AI task force. They want you to lead the pilot project." Her face showed no immediate reaction. It took a moment to register. Lead it, she echoed. You earned this opportunity today, he affirmed. I just made sure the door remained open. Maya stepped out into the hallway, her heart racing as she looked down at her hands. Years of hard work had left calluses beneath her nails. She was not supposed to be there, yet still she was. That evening, back at her apartment, Zion ran up to her holding a crayon drawing. Mama, look, it is you, he exclaimed. She smiled warmly as she took in the simple but heartfelt picture. He crouched down to see that he had drawn her, standing before a massive glowing screen, draped in a superhero cape and surrounded by streams of green code. She laughed weakly, her voice tight. Is that how I look now? You fix things, he replied with pride, like Iron Man, but more clever. She pulled him into an embrace, and for the first time in many years, she did not feel like she was pretending. As he ran off, Maya pinned the sketch to the refrigerator, right next to the faded eviction notice from last winter. One represented the past, the other finally pointed toward her future. The article appeared at 8:03 in the morning. Maya had just stepped into the glass elevator when her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and saw a headline from an anonymous news outlet. Carlyle's hires an ex-hacker with a questionable history. Internal turmoil was building. Her blood ran cold. By the time she reached the 38th floor, her inbox was overflowing with 3 voicemails, a dozen notifications, and her heart pounded wildly as if it might burst out of her chest. She attempted to steady her nerves, but the moment she stepped off the elevator, she noticed the change. Conversations among engineers stopped abruptly as she walked by. One of the interns, someone she had helped just a day before, deliberately avoided making eye contact. Elise did not even acknowledge her with a nod when their eyes briefly met in the hallway. It was not anger she sensed, but pure fear. Nathan was not in his office. His assistant shook her head when Maya inquired. He's with the board, an emergency meeting, she said. That explained everything. Without hesitation, Maya turned and headed straight for the server room. She knew she had to take control of the situation herself. Her hands hovered over the keyboard, frozen, as the feeling that the walls were slowly closing in overwhelmed her mind. The laptop sat open, yet her fingers refused to move. She could feel her breathing grow shallow, aware of the weight of judgment about to fall on her. Suddenly, a sharp knock broke the silence. She turned to see Marcus Vell standing in the doorway, arms crossed and that same cold smirk playing on his lips. I see you've made the morning headlines, he said. Maya stood her ground. I did not leak anything. Raising an eyebrow, he responded, That does not matter. It's out now, and we have to clean up the mess your so-called legacy left behind. She swallowed hard, her throat tight. You think this damages me? It damages the entire company, she replied. He said with an unyielding tone, You are not the story here, Miss Williams. We are, and Nathan Carlyle is risking everything by putting his faith in a woman who spent the last 4 years cleaning floors. She tried to answer, but he stepped forward, cutting her off. You believe you have earned your position, but this is not about coding. It is about trust, image, and money, she insisted, struggling to keep her voice calm. I have only fixed what others failed to see. Marcus sneered. Your past is the headline, not your achievements. She remained silent, unable to deny the reality of his words. At that moment, all her worst fears became real. You should step back, he said softly before turning away. Before you become a liability, we cannot erase. As he left, for the first time since she entered the building, Maya felt herself beginning to break. She left home earlier than usual. Zion was assembling a Lego tank on the living room floor when she walked in. He glanced up and smiled brightly. Mom, you're home early. She bent down beside him, forcing a gentle smile. Yeah, buddy, I just needed some fresh air. He proudly showed her the spinning cannon he had created. It is for defense, he explained seriously, in case the bad guys try to attack the robot base. She tousled his hair and said, Good thinking. Later, after he had fallen asleep, Maya sat on the couch in darkness with her laptop glowing softly. The article was still open on the screen. They had taken her picture from an old ID badge, labeling her as a hacker and a threat. They wrote her story without ever asking her a single question. Nathan still had not called. Slowly, she closed the laptop and pressed her hands together tightly, trying to hold back an overwhelming feeling. The stillness in her apartment was suffocating until a knock sounded. She opened the door to find Nathan standing there, his tie undone and face weary. He held out a small white takeout bag. Inside were grilled cheese and tomato soup. She looked at him silently. I did not know what else to bring you. You should leave, she said, stepping aside. He nodded once. I will, but first, I need to say this. He crossed his arms. I let them have their way. He admitted, I sat quietly in that boardroom because I feared the stock price, the media, the investors. He met her gaze, voice raw. By doing that, I became just like the men who ruined your life before. Maya turned away. I did not just fail you, Nathan went on. I confirmed what you feared most. Your voice still goes unheard when it deserves to be heard. Tears sprang to her eyes before she could hold them back. But I won't stay silent any longer, he said. Tomorrow morning, I am holding a press conference. I will reveal the truth that the genius behind our AI, the mind that revived this company, is you. And if they want me, they will have to accept you as well. She shook her head. They will destroy you, he said. Maybe so, but at least this time, my suffering will be for a cause that is just. After a long pause, Maya opened the door wider. You are lucky because I like grilled cheese. Nathan gave a cautious smile. They sat quietly in the kitchen. No words spoken, just the gentle clinking of spoons and soup before he left. Maya looked at him. You still haven't said it? She murmured. Said what? That you're sorry. He nodded quietly. I am sorry for everything. She held his gaze for a moment longer, then nodded once. I will be there tomorrow, she said. You don't have to go, I want to. That night, as she lay beside her son, listening to his gentle breathing, Maya traced the outline of the picture he had pinned above his bed. It showed her with a cape standing before a glowing screen. Maybe tomorrow they would continue to portray her as a villain. But her son saw her differently, and perhaps that was the only truth that really mattered. The press conference was set for 9 o'clock in the morning sharp. By 8:15, the main lobby of Carlyle's headquarters had been completely transformed. The scene resembled a political drama with camera operators perched on tripods, assistants quickly running cables, and executives whispering quietly in groups near the back wall. Above the stage hung a banner proclaiming innovation and integrity, Carlyle's vision for the future of cybersecurity. Behind a dark curtain, Maya stood motionless, her heart pounding fiercely against her chest like fists trying to break through a locked door. She wore a navy blazer that she had borrowed from Elise, who had dropped it off that morning with a sharp, "Don't wrinkle it." Her hair was neatly pinned back, but her palms were clammy. She was not supposed to be here, not on a stage, not in front of cameras. She was the girl who worked unseen in the shadows, wiping down tables while constructing defensive strategies in her mind. Nathan, Maya heard, his voice calm and steady as he stood beside her, adjusting his tie reflected in a shiny chrome panel. Are you ready? She looked up at him, shook her head, and he gave her a warm, reassuring smile. Neither of us is ready, he seemed to say. At exactly 8:59, the curtain rose. Flashbulbs exploded like fireworks, and a gentle murmur rolled through the audience as Nathan stepped forward. Maya followed right behind him, her head held high and shoulders squared. Nathan reached the podium but did not speak immediately. Instead, he surveyed the crowd, allowing the silence to deepen before beginning. 6 months ago, California faced a breach, one that could have shattered our infrastructure, damaged our reputation, and maybe even destroyed our entire future. The solution, for months, the code that protected us, arrived without any acknowledgement, and we assumed it was our internal team behind it. That was not true, and a ripple of surprise passed through the crowd. Nathan spoke firmly, continuing, Today I want to reveal the truth. The code that saved our system and restored our core defenses was created by a woman who worked in this building as a waitress and janitor at the time. Her name is Maya Williams. Cameras shifted to her, and Maya felt every lens like a spotlight, igniting old wounds. But she remained composed. Nathan indicated toward her, explaining that Maya is not a security risk. She is a security architect. She is not a hacker, but a guardian. She is not a burden, but the future of this organization. As Nathan stepped away from the microphone and returned to her side, he offered his hand. Maya hesitated but stepped forward. The podium seemed taller than she recalled, and the lights felt hotter. She took a breath, saying, My name is Maya Williams. Her voice was steady and clear. I used to write code that nobody ever noticed, working quietly through the night while raising my son, all while enduring a system that told me I didn't belong here. The room fell silent, photographers pausing their shutters. I wasn't invisible because I had nothing to give. I was invisible because no one ever asked if I did. Her hands gripped the edge of the podium, but her voice grew more confident. I discovered a weakness, I repaired it. I never sought credit or trust, but I stand here now because the first time someone chose to look beyond my job title, the gaps in my resume and my past, and focused instead on my work, she paused and said, I am not the exception, I am the proof. The room exploded with reaction. Some stood while others remained seated, yet the atmosphere had changed. Her voice pierced through the wall of preconceived notions. Backstage, Elise stood with her arms folded, a smirk playing at the corner of her lips. She said quietly to no one in particular, she did it. After the conference, Maya stepped into the hallway behind the stage, her mind racing, hands trembling. Nathan caught up to her, a rare gentleness softening his face. You did more than I could have ever imagined, he said. I didn't do it for you, she replied breathlessly. I did it because I was tired of hiding. And now they know, he said. Now I know, she corrected. That evening, she walked Zion home from school through Central Park. The autumn leaves were a mix of gold and red, crunching beneath their feet. He tightly held her hand, swinging it as they strolled under the trees. Mom, you were on television, he said proudly. Miss Jenkins told me to be proud of you. Maya smiled. I am. I always was. But now everyone else is catching up. He hesitated. Does this mean we are not poor anymore? Her breath hitched. Maybe not poor in the same way, she said softly, but you will always make grilled cheese sandwiches. They stopped near the playground. Zion ran off to climb the jungle gym while Maya sat quietly on a bench, watching the boy who once held her hand as she wiped away her tears. The diner floors were now echoing laughter beneath a sky that suddenly appeared more expansive. Her phone buzzed with a message from Elise Prototype. You passed phase 2. Would you like to lead the upcoming integration cycle? Moments later, another ping arrived. Nathan Carlisle wrote, You have the final say on the design direction. Maya smiled and then slipped the phone away. She gazed upwards as the last streaks of orange dissolved behind the skyline. And for the first time in what felt like ages, she did not feel like a shadow in her own existence. Instead, she felt grounded and prepared, calm and ready. 3 weeks following the press conference, Maya Williams stood before a glass wall covered in diagrams, data trees, and snippets of code written in green marker. The newly formed AI Defense Task Force had assembled in the strategy room. Engineers from all corners of the company, each carefully selected, now looked at her with anticipation rather than doubt. Maya tapped the board, explaining, Version 3 learns not only from attack patterns, but also from changes within internal behavior. Imagine it as an immune system. When someone inside begins acting like a virus, the system identifies subtle anomalies, files behaviors, and marks command sequences. Kevin Lynn, seated in a corner, scratched his chin. So, it treats intent like an infection? Maya nodded. Exactly. The AI does not just respond to code. It senses movement, weight, rhythm. It recognizes when something is amiss. There was a pause before Elise, sitting near the front, leaned back and let out a pleased grunt. Maya had waited for a decade to hear someone express that sincerely in a meeting. She allowed herself a quiet smile. It still felt unusual to have her ideas not only heard, but genuinely valued. After the meeting, as others dispersed, Nathan arrived with his coat casually draped over one arm. It is 2 minutes past 10, he said softly. The board wants a progress update. Maya blinked, surprised. They asked for me? She questioned. Not really, I told them you were coming. She hesitated. Are they going to bring up your history again? Nathan's face offered no hint of emotion. They might, but if they do, their focus will shift to the woman standing next to our system that has already doubled our firewall's capability and tripled our internal response speed. Let them try, he replied. She walked beside him down the corridor, not because she trusted the board, but because more than anyone she trusted herself. The conference room was all glass and silence. 8 men and women in business attire turned their attention as Maya entered. Marcus Vell sat at the far end with arms crossed, his expression showing the familiar skepticism. Nathan motioned for her to start. Maya stepped into the center without any notes because she did not need them. I was initially hired on a temporary basis to fix vulnerabilities in our outdated systems, she began. In only 6 weeks, the AI Defense Corps has mapped nearly all of our internal infrastructure and halted 3 separate spear phishing attacks initiated from an insider source. The prototype runs at approximately 1.3 milliseconds per cycle, with nearly no delay. She pressed a remote, and the screen behind her sprang to life with data. Data visualizations improve at a speed unmatched by any other tool we have created, because this system mimics the most adaptable entity on Earth, human intuition. Not the frantic sort, but the kind that observes and pays attention. The room was silent until Marcus finally broke the quiet. "You are not officially an engineer, Miss Williams," he stated. "No," she responded with steady composure. "I have been detained before, but never formally charged, and that only happened after I uncovered a massive fraud worth millions." "You misrepresented your credentials to get this position," he accused. "I did not lie," she insisted. "I took a janitorial job just to survive, and when your systems faltered, I repaired them." A tense silence filled the room. One board member, an elderly woman with silver hair and a piercing tone, leaned closer and asked, "Why did you not come to us initially instead of using unofficial channels?" Maya met her stare steadily and answered, "People like me rarely secure meetings with people like you. We usually receive warnings, suspensions, or even handcuffs." Another pause followed before Nathan spoke up. "Everyone here knows the figures. The media may portray Maya as a liability, but if she leaves this building, I will walk alongside her. Losing either of us is not an option we can afford." For a long moment, no one responded. Then Elise, who had entered unnoticed, addressed the room from the back. "Ladies and gentlemen, the vote has already taken place. The protocols are moving into production. This is not about Maya's past, but about how quickly we choose to welcome the future." Maya looked at Nathan, then at Elise, and finally at the assembly of decision-makers. Nobody spoke. Later in the corridor, she leaned against the wall, finally catching her breath. Nathan stepped beside her, easing the tension, and said, "That will be the last time we have to explain you to anyone." Maya let out a soft laugh. "That sounds hopeful." It was well past time. That weekend, Maya and Zion took the subway to the Brooklyn Science Center. He gripped her hand tightly, practically buzzing with excitement. As they passed the robotics exhibit, a sleek touchscreen display caught their attention in the back of the main hall, featuring Vectrate's logo and a scrolling headline, "New Adaptive Security Core." The plaque read it was donated by Carlyle's and designed by Maya Williams. Zion stared at it in awe. "Is that your name?" Maya nodded affirmatively. A nearby staff member came over asking, "Would you like a photo, ma'am? We just installed the plaque." Maya hesitated but agreed. She knelt beside Zion, and as the camera flashed, he raised 2 peace signs and beamed so brightly it wrinkled his entire face. On the way out, Zion tugged her sleeve and asked, "Does this mean we're superheroes now?" Maya paused briefly before smiling and replying, "No, it means we never really needed to be." That night, she tucked him into bed, then stood by the door, watching him sleep. On his nightstand rested the framed photo, and on the fridge was the same old drawing of her in a cape. Except, now it no longer felt like a fantasy, but an undeniable reality. The next Monday started quietly, unusually so for a company recently spotlighted in national news. Maya Williams entered the main lobby of Carlyle's, her ID badge freshly updated with a new title, Lead Systems. As an integration architect, the golden lettering still seemed unreal to Maya Williams. She passed familiar janitorial closets she once mopped near, and the scent of citrus cleaner from her early shifts remained vivid in her mind. Now, every greeting from a coworker carried a different meaning: respect instead of pity, interest instead of dismissal. In the elevator, a young programmer named Jesse nervously turned to her and said, "Hey, Miss Williams, my dad watched your interview on Channel 6. He said, 'That woman reminds me of your mom when she fought for her teaching license back in 1984. Maya smiled, feeling honored, and replied, "Please thank him and tell your mom I said respect." However, as she stepped onto the executive floor, her smile vanished. A tall, unfamiliar man in a sharp suit stood outside Nathan Carlyle's office. He was not from internal security. His posture was too rigid, and his expression too cold. Before Maya could question him, Elise met her in the hallway, holding a folder. "We have a situation," Elise said. Maya nodded, following her into a nearby conference room. 3 of the original board members who authorized Maya's appointment had been approached by someone claiming to possess evidence that she had falsified not only her education, but her entire background. Elise stated plainly, "They're calling it whistleblower data." Maya tensed, knowing the claims were fabricated, but whether false or true, they were being asked to submit complete internal logs from her time in the AI Defense Corps. Leaning forward, I showed them everything, confident that I had nothing to conceal. Elise hesitated before speaking. "Maya, the issue is not whether they believe the code belongs to you. The real concern is who else might have gained access to that server." Maya blinked in surprise. "You mean the breach?" "We suspect it was not just external. There could have been a double agent, someone responsible for cleaning up the bug you stopped. If they inserted a hidden process during your override, they might have tracked my credentials and made it appear as if I created something with harmful intentions." Maya's mouth went dry. "They are not merely questioning my actions," she said slowly. "They are setting me up to take the blame for what they themselves did." Elise nodded solemnly. Maya sat back, overwhelmed. "This isn't about old janitor files or fake credentials. This is about wiping out everything I built and using my name as a cover." A long pause followed before Elise spoke again. "There is a hearing in 3 days, an internal tribunal. You will be given the chance to speak, but I advise we prepare evidence that is clear and indisputable." Maya looked down at her hands, which trembled slightly, not from fear but from the heavy burden she bore. "I will do it," she finally said. "I will clear my name myself." Later that evening, after Zion had fallen asleep with his head resting on a pile of superhero comics, Maya reopened her laptop in the quiet kitchen. The soft drone of the dishwasher was the only noise. She accessed the backup logs from the AI Defense Corps. Every override, every command string, every system call she had made. They meticulously examined each record, comparing it timestamp by timestamp with Maya Williams' original work. Then, she identified a discrepancy at 2:08 in the morning, 2 nights before the breach was made public. Someone had activated an inactive administrative port that Maya never used and had specifically disabled in her protocols. The digital trail was faint, yet a pattern emerged in the activity. Data was copied but never executed. It was a test run, invisible unless deliberately sought. Someone had been probing the system, utilizing her infrastructure as the means. The following day, Maya and Elise met privately with Nathan Carlisle in the sub-basement, a room devoid of cameras where only analog security measures and conventional keys were in place. Nathan appeared pale as Maya detailed their discoveries. He muttered, "This is internal espionage," then added, "It could be at a corporate level or perhaps even higher." Maya responded, "They planted a backdoor not only into our AI but the entire network, using your work as a Trojan horse. Now they want to make me the scapegoat." Nathan firmly replied, "Not if we expose them first." He revealed a safe concealed behind a wall panel and retrieved a drive. "This contains the complete legacy audit chain from before your promotion, the only dataset untouched. If anyone tampered with code back when you were still in an entry-level position, it would appear here." They spent the entire night scrutinizing every line and every packet. At daybreak, Maya's eyes grew wide in realization. "Right there, that is it," she exclaimed. Nathan leaned closer and explained that a deployment command had been issued under the credentials of Martin Gravehead, head of strategic risk, an individual connected to this sinister act. Known for flashing an overly wide smile, he had once inquired of Maya whether she could spell encryption. He had orchestrated the experimental operation that enabled the malware to infiltrate the system, and he had set Maya up before she even had the chance to respond. Nathan Carlisle's jaw clenched tightly. "We take this matter to the board," he said firmly. Maya shook her head. "No, we take this to the press. Let the truth breathe where they cannot suppress it." Nathan hesitated. "That will ruin him." Maya gazed out the small window where the morning light spilled over the skyline. "No," she whispered softly. "It will set me free." She turned back with fire burning in her eyes. "And I refuse to let my son grow up believing silence guarantees safety." 3 days later, the hearing room inside Carlisle's headquarters was filled with a silence sharp enough to cut like a blade. 5 board members sat behind a gleaming mahogany desk, their faces unreadable, pens resting motionless. Maya Williams stood alone in the center of the room, no microphone needed as the truth spoke loudly on its own. Nathan Carlyle was seated behind her, arms crossed, his demeanor calm yet resolute. Nearby stood Elise, laptop open and projector ready. One board member, a silver-haired woman named Constance Brewster, finally broke the quiet. Miss Williams, you are accused of accessing restricted systems without authorization and deploying untested code that may have jeopardized national security. Maya nodded once. I acknowledge the accusation. I am here to reveal the truth, not merely to defend myself, but to protect the integrity of this company. Elise pressed a key and the first slide illuminated on the screen behind Maya, displaying a timestamp log revealing Maya's overridden command protocols. This is the code I retrieved from that particular night, Maya started. I intervened because the backup scheduler was caught in a loop due to a glitch in the timestamp array. However, what you do not notice in this code is equally crucial. She moved closer to the screen and indicated a log entry. This log reveals a covert call sequence issued 2 days before at 2:08 in the morning. I did not initiate this call. The second slide appeared, showing an archived audit trail from the legacy system, decrypted, with matching timestamps. It unmistakably displayed Martin Greaves's credentials, carrying out the deployment. I was still assigned to janitorial duties on the night this code was introduced. I did not even have system access. A murmur spread across the room as the atmosphere shifted. But I was not merely blamed, Maya declared with growing confidence. I was targeted because someone needed a scapegoat who would be dismissed. A black single mother working night shifts without a degree or prestigious background was an ideal target. Constance frowned and asked, Are you suggesting racial bias? Maya answered firmly, I am pointing out systemic exploitation. This was a deliberate setup. When the system noticed an unexpected person ascending, someone it could not control, it attempted to erase me once more. Nathan then spoke up. The proof corroborates her claim. Greaves gained administrator-level access to redirect data off-site. We have verified the IP addresses and packet signatures showing that he diverted company code to an offshore shell company using Maya's credentials. Known as the Trojan Shell, another board member who had opposed Maya's appointment interrupted, asking, Where is Mr. Greaves now? Maya glanced towards the door as if anticipating an answer, and at that moment it opened. Martin Greaves entered, flanked by 2 federal agents. Earlier that day, the press had already exposed the story, revealing that Elise sent the encrypted data dump to 3 major networks at dawn. Greaves's face showed a mixture of anger and disbelief. You betrayal, he spat. Maya, standing firm, replied, I was a janitor, and I also saved this company you nearly ruined. Constance then turned to the guards and instructed, Please escort Mr. Greaves out. Effective immediately, he is suspended pending federal investigation. As the doors shut behind him, a soft sigh spread through the room. Suddenly, Constance rose, addressing Maya. Miss Williams, you once told me during a brief elevator ride that justice should be calm and meticulous, and that the loudest voices do not always speak the truth. Yet today, your words were exactly what we needed. She extended her hand. The panel rose one by one, and a unanimous decision was announced. Maya would keep her position, and a formal apology would be issued to the staff and the public. Hours later, in the company's main atrium, Nathan called an urgent press conference beneath the large skylight. Maya faced a sea of cameras and microphones. I did not come here to be the hero of someone else's redemption story, she began. I came here to do my job, to safeguard this system from collapse, even if it fails to protect me, she paused thoughtfully. Scanning the room, she reflected, if my story means anything to those listening today, let it be this. Your appearance, background, or uniform do not define your value. What truly counts is how you act when no one is observing. Behind her, a massive screen revealed the new initiative titled Project Williams Protocol. The very code she had authored was now active, integrated into all of Carlyle's systems to identify and stop inside breaches. Zion stood at the forefront, holding Elisa's hand, and when he witnessed his mother finish her speech, He applauded first with great enthusiasm. Soon, the entire crowd joined in. As the atrium gradually emptied, Maya moved slowly past the areas she once cleaned. The mop closet, the maintenance elevator, the break room filled with burnt coffee and flickering lights. She stopped before a recently mounted plaque that read, "Integrity is what you do when no one is watching in honor of Maya Williams." Nathan arrived quietly by her side. After a moment of silence, he finally spoke. "I can never take back what I did that night, Maya. The slap. How I refused to listen to you." She turned to him and replied, "No, you cannot undo it. But this time you heard me, and that is what matters." He offered his hand not as an apology but out of respect, and she accepted it. Stepping out into the bright sunlit plaza, Maya's movements were deliberate yet slow. The burden she had carried for so long, the feeling of being ignored, unappreciated, and silenced, had not vanished but changed form. Justice had not arrived quickly, but it had come, and she had claimed it through every single step. Each line of programming, every tear shed in the darkness, Maya Williams did more than simply endure. She transformed the entire ordeal by rewriting the narrative.